About 2 years back, my husband quit his corporate job to start his own company. At the time, I supported him, and in fact, I had been doing that for quite a while. I supported him when he had the idea at first. I supported his vision and helped him with the conceptualization stage and even helped him plan his business model. The only condition I had set forth was that in case his business failed, I would like him to go back to work. And at the time, he had promised me that he would do that in case his business failed, because at the end of the day, we had to make money as well. I knew he was really passionate about having his own business, but there were practical considerations as well. Besides, I wanted to start trying for a baby, and that wouldn't be possible until we were making good money. So anyway, in the past year and a half after he quit his job and started his company, I started contributing more towards the household expenses and everything, whereas earlier we did it equally. But now, because he was already putting in so much of his money into his business, I was trying to be supportive by making it work on my own. For a while, I didn't have any complaints because I figured that at some point he would be able to support both of us again once his company started making more money. Unfortunately, a year passed and then another 6 months, and nothing of the sort happened. I kept waiting for some miracle, but at some point, I guess I realized that this was not going to work because his business was failing. I knew that. And I guess deep down he knew that too. But I don't think he was willing to admit it, because every time I tried to bring it up with him, he told me that the business needed a little more time and money, and then they would be on track. He was in denial and he kept dragging the process out, but we knew that the business was going to shut down at some point because he was seriously in debt. And that's exactly what happened 6 months back. And he didn't even tell me about it until a month later. They had to shut down, and he was unemployed for a month before he told me the truth. And I was very upset, but I could tell that he was even more upset than I was because of how he had failed. So at the time, I knew that he was already down in the dumps, so I didn't pressure him too much. But I had told him that now he had to go back to looking for work. And he told me that he would definitely start hunting for a job, and I took that for the truth, but nothing of the sort has happened. And every time I ask him about it, he keeps telling me that he's looking for something. He's waiting for the right opportunity. But I don't buy it. Personally, for the past few months, I've started to think that maybe he's not waiting for anything. And maybe he's not even looking for anything. Because every time I come back home from work, he's just doing the same thing. He's just watching TV or playing video games. He doesn't even do any chores around the house. He says that he's too depressed to even try doing it. And we can't afford a housekeeper right now, since I'm the only one making money, and I need to put aside money for my own savings as well. So I ended up working long hours at my job just to be able to make a bit more money than usual so that I can contribute more. And then I have to come back home and do all the household work as well. And the bills are always just as high. That's not going anywhere. And it's been getting exhausting for me to do everything on my own, without any help from him. I had been thinking about talking to him about this for a while, but unfortunately, every time I tried to bring it up with him, he would accuse me of pushing him too hard and tell me that I am impatient and I don't care about his mental state, and that would inevitably end up in a fight. But this week, I realized that I just couldn't do this anymore, and I had to speak to him about it. Once again, I tried to bring this up with him, and he started rolling his eyes, started telling me that he was going to look for something and I just needed to be a little patient. It was his usual routine, but this time I was not having it. I had thought about the practical considerations and everything, and I told him that I could understand that he was under a lot of stress and he probably felt really upset that his business didn't work out for him. But at the end of the day, life doesn't stop for that. Life goes on, and I've had to go on too, with or without his help. And for the past few months, it has been taking its toll on me, so I can't keep doing it anymore. Then I dropped the bomb on him and I told him that unless and until he finds a job, I would like for him to go and stay with his parents so that they will be able to take care of him better than I do, because right now I don't have the mental capacity to do all of this on my own. That really took him by shock, and for a couple of minutes he thought that I was joking, but I was definitely quite serious about it. I had given it a lot of thought, and I thought that was the most practical thing to do. And he took it as well as I thought he would, which is not at all. He got very upset immediately and he started telling me that I was being quite heartless and materialistic. He told me that he was not going to go crawling back to his parents just because his company couldn't take off, because that was pathetic. He told me that as his wife, I should be supportive of him instead of telling him to leave like this. So clearly he was very upset about the suggestion I had made, but I thought it was perfectly reasonable, to be very honest. Let's be real. All he was doing for the past few months was just sitting at home watching TV all day, playing video games or scrolling on his phone. None of these were very productive activities, and I knew for a fact that he was definitely not looking for a job, because if he were, he must have found something by now that appealed to him. And even if he hadn't, he could have just started working for the sake of it, because we needed money. Unfortunately, he was not doing any of that. He was just relying on me to keep working, not just at my job, but also at home, to keep everything in order and keep paying the bills. And now I was done with it. I was not going to do this anymore, and I had to put my foot down and tell him that he could either start pulling his weight around the house again, or he could go and live with his parents. The choice was his. But this conversation also ended in a huge fight, and this time he was so hurt that he decided to pack up his stuff and actually leave. I didn't try to stop him because I was really exhausted. I just needed some time to myself. Of course, a couple of hours after he had left, I had called his parents to ask if he had reached them or not, because I wanted him to be safe. And he had left without the car, but they told me he had not come home, and when they asked me if everything was all right, I explained the situation to them. And they told me that whatever I had done was really wrong, and that as his wife, I really should have been more supportive of him. What I don't understand is how on earth I could have been more supportive. I literally don't understand what more I could have possibly done, because I think I did everything in my power to make things work for him as far as I could. But now, I can't just keep sacrificing myself and my mental health to make sure he doesn't have to lift a finger. I can't do that. And if that makes me selfish and heartless, I don't care. Right now, I have no idea where he is. It's been a couple of days since he left and I haven't heard from him, even though I've tried to call him and text him several times. I'm guessing that he's probably staying with a friend, because I've been trying to reach some of them, but nobody has responded. So I'm guessing that they know, and they don't want to let me in on what's going on. Anyway, I do feel bad about everything, and I would like to sort things out with him. But I don't think I have to apologize for anything that I said, to be honest. AITA for telling my husband that he should go and stay with his parents unless he can find a job. Update 1. So it's been a week since my last update, and I finally found out where my husband was. I guessed it right. He was staying with a friend, and I had been trying to contact them non-stop. So I guess at some point they decided to finally talk to me. Last evening, after I tried calling a couple of his friends once again, one of them finally picked up, and I was told that he was staying with him. And since my husband was not picking up any of my phone calls or responding to any of my texts, I asked his friend to put me through to him, but he declined, saying that my husband did not want to talk to me and that he had only picked up the phone so I would stop bothering everyone. It was very annoying because it was not something I wanted to do, but I was being forced into this situation because I had no idea where he had gone, and of course I needed to know. And I had already been feeling quite irritated because of everything for the past couple of days. So I finally snapped at him, and I told him that I wasn't asking for him because I was having fun doing this. I was doing that because I cared for him, but if he didn't want that, then I would stop. And I told him he can come home whenever he wants to come, because I'm the one who's going to be leaving now, since I'm just sick of staying here waiting for things to fix themselves while he does nothing to actually make things right. I really meant that too, because I was honestly done with everything. Having said that, I hung up without even waiting for a response, and I called our real estate agent and asked her if she could start looking for apartments for me around my workplace. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know if I'm going to file for divorce or whatever, but for now, I think I need my own place so I can think things over. I think I've had enough of this BS. Update 2. Hi, so a couple of days have passed since my last update. And after work, I've been going around with my real estate agent to look for apartments for rent. It's near my workplace, so it's not that much trouble. She's a professional, so even though she knows me and my husband, she's not spoken to him about it at all. And I'm relieved about that. To be honest, right now, I still have no idea where I'm going with this. But I just know that I need a place of my own, because this whole thing with my husband has been driving me crazy. And even if I end up patching things up, I think I would like to spend some time away from him for now. After the phone call with his friend, I thought that he would finally come back and talk to me and try to sort things out. But he hasn't done that yet. I don't even know what he's waiting for. Because if he wanted to file for a divorce, he could have done so. He has had sufficient time to do that. But I don't think he wants a divorce. I think he just wants to keep me on the hook. And he wants me to keep feeling guilty about everything, even though I haven't really done anything that bad. I was just standing up for myself. I was trying to make things work for myself because I was sick of constantly prioritizing him and his mental health over mine. And just because I chose to stand up for myself, he couldn't take it. And now he's acting like a brat and throwing a temper tantrum. He can do whatever he wants. I just don't care anymore. I honestly just want this whole thing to be over. I don't know how, but I just want it to be over. In the past few days, I've spoken to my parents about it. They have told me that whatever I did was right, because at some point, this arrangement had to come to an end. I couldn't go on doing everything on my own indefinitely and let him just sit back and relax just because he had hit a snag while working on his business. Tough luck. It happens to a lot of people, but they don't just give up and sit and then do nothing and expect life to take care of everything else. And if he really thought that I was going to keep doing everything on my own without expecting anything from him, he was wrong, because I'm not that kind of person. I did everything in my power for as long as I could, but beyond that, it's ridiculous and unfair to expect me to keep putting him first at all times. Update 3. So it's been a week and 3 days since my last update, and today I finally settled on an apartment that I really like. It's close to my workplace, a nice neighborhood, and the rent is also pretty reasonable. So I'll easily be able to afford it on my salary, and so I have my heart set on that one. And now that I had a place in mind, one where I could go and stay on my own, I thought that it was time for me to tell my husband all about it. So far, I hadn't bothered because even he hadn't bothered to text me or reply to any of my messages that I had sent earlier, or even call me once. I'm not even joking. Since that phone call with his friend, where I had been told that my husband did not want to talk to me for now, I haven't heard a peep out of him. He literally hasn't bothered to check on me, nor has he responded to any of my attempts to contact him in the past. And after that phone call, I had self-respect, so even I didn't call him and make any further attempts to contact him. I kept waiting for him to reach out to me, but he never did. I'm tired now. I can't keep waiting for him to be done with his temper tantrum, and then he'll call me and then try to sort things out with me. It's just not fair to me, and he's being ridiculous right now. So today in the morning, after I had finalized everything with my real estate agent, I dropped him a text and told him that I had found an apartment and I will be moving out shortly. So if he wanted to come back, he could do that. I didn't even expect him to reply to that, but just within a couple of hours he started calling me. And at first I ignored him because I didn't want to talk to him at all. But then I finally picked up the phone and he started off by telling me that he was shocked that I had made such a huge decision without even speaking to him first. And then he started demanding an explanation as to why I had done something like this, why I had to go out of my way and get an apartment for myself. And he started asking me if I was planning on filing for a divorce or anything. I patiently let him scream at me for a while, and then when he was done, I told him that I hadn't done anything yet and I was waiting for him to talk to me. And now that he had finally decided to speak to me, we could decide together if we wanted to stay together or not. I was getting sick and tired of this game. I couldn't constantly be expected to chase after him because he was not a child. And that's exactly what he was acting like, a spoiled and petulant child. He was not happy when I said this, and he told me I was being horrible to him for no reason, and that's why he had left and decided not to talk to me. He accused me of hitting him when he was already down, even though that had not been my intention at all, and that really annoyed me. I told him I had tried my best to be supportive of him, but he was just taking me for granted, and that was not going to work with me. I was not the kind of woman who was just going to take this bad behavior and not say anything about it. I told him very clearly that I had tried to tell him that he needed to get a job several times because I could understand that he was upset. But that's not an excuse for him to just sit back at home and not do anything. Even though I have been very upset at certain points, when certain things have not worked out for me, I've never quit everything and sat back and relied on him to work everything out for me. But that's exactly what he had been doing. And the least he could have done was to do the household work. But even for that, he relied on me. He was making me do every little thing, and he was not even grateful for it. He was not even doing the bare minimum that he had promised me he would. He was not even looking for a job or anything, and I don't understand why he expected me to be fine with that kind of thing. And when I was telling him all of this, I ended up screaming at him because I had been holding all of it back for a very long time, but I just couldn't anymore. He tried to fight back, but I didn't let him. I just got it all out of my system, and then I told him that now I don't know what he wanted to do. But I knew for a fact that I needed some space away from him. So whether he liked it or not, I was getting that apartment and I was moving into it. And if he wanted to file for divorce, he could do that. Or maybe we could wait it out for a couple of weeks and see what we wanted. But the apartment was non-negotiable. I was going to stay away from him on my own until I felt ready to come back, because that's exactly what he had been doing. So it's not fair for him to expect things to work out on his terms. But when I want to do something that I want, he suddenly has to grill me about it. He then started to tell me that it was not the same thing at all, that he had just moved in with his friend for a couple of days, whereas I was getting a whole apartment for myself just to stay away from him. And it didn't make sense how he was saying that it was not the same thing when it was essentially the same thing. Because at least I had done the decent thing. And I had at least given him a heads up that I was going to be moving out and staying on my own for a couple of days. Whereas he hadn't even done that. I had to go around and keep asking everyone just so that I would be able to find out where he was staying. Anyway, I told him I had no interest in arguing with him. I had only wanted to inform him. I also told him that it was very disappointing that it had taken him so long. The news of me moving out for a couple of days to finally reach out to me. I also told him I didn't know whether I wanted a divorce from him or not since he had asked me, but if he wanted that, then he could definitely go ahead with it, and I was not going to stop him. But for me, I needed some time to think about what I really wanted because we've been together for a very long time. I was just being honest with him. I was not ready to give up on him yet, but given how things were going, I didn't know if staying with him was the right thing to do or not. I was very blunt and honest about everything, and he didn't like that, and he told me I was being selfish and heartless once again. He told me that if he knew that him losing his company was going to ruin his marriage as well, then he never would have bothered to quit his job in the first place because clearly I'm not the supportive person that he had thought I was going to be. I found it ridiculous that he was accusing me of not being supportive when that was all I had been trying to do for the past few months. Even when he was going through the worst phase of his life, when he realized that his company was failing, I was there for him and I was doing my best to motivate him. But he was not going to see any of that. And if he really thought I was acting like this because his company had failed, then boy, I really can't think of anybody more delusional. Anyway, I didn't bother to say any of that because clearly he had made up his mind about what he wanted to believe. And I didn't want to argue with him, so I just hung up. Now, whatever happens, happens because I'm done fighting. Update 4. Hi, so it's been a day since my last update, and today my husband finally came back home with all his stuff. And before saying anything else, he just started lecturing me about how I was abandoning my responsibilities by leaving him behind and that I couldn't just do this to him. He started telling me that he needed some space away from me because what I had done was really wrong. The things that I had said to him had really hurt him, and that's why he had needed time to heal from it. But here I was just taking revenge, and that was not nice of me. He made literally no sense because he was just trying to portray himself as the victim and me as the villain, and I was not going to have that. I told him I had done my best already, and that if he was here to argue with me, then there was no point in speaking to each other at all. Because we could talk about these things all day and still not be able to come to a conclusion. So if he wanted to sort things out with me, then he would have to start talking to me instead of arguing with me. And if he didn't think he would be able to do that, then there was no point in speaking to each other at all. After that, I went into the guest room and I locked myself in. He tried to get me to come out for a couple of minutes, but he was being very arrogant, and I didn't like his tone, so I just stayed in. It was only at dinner time that I started feeling hungry, and several hours had passed since he had come back, so I came back out into the living room at one point because I needed to take my pizza since I had ordered it, and at that point, he had been sitting outside in the living room watching TV like he usually does. When he saw me come out, he told me that he was not going to try and talk to me anymore because clearly there was something wrong with me. And he started saying that maybe I had found someone else, which is why I was acting like this, being so strange and everything. I couldn't take that accusation and I snapped at him. I told him I hadn't found anybody else. He had just turned into an entirely different person after his company failed. And if he wanted me to be the same way that I had been with him for so long, then he had to go back to being the kind of person that he used to be. The guy that I had married, who was kind and compassionate and empathetic. But now, he's just selfish, narcissistic, egoistic and lazy, and I don't want to be with a person like that. After saying that I'm getting my pizza, I went back into the guest room and I locked myself in again. After that, he didn't make any attempts to talk to me again for the rest of the evening, even though I did come back out a couple of times. And this morning when I woke up, he was gone. He didn't leave a note or anything. He was just gone with all his stuff. So now I think I've made up my mind about what I want to do. I don't think I have any other option other than leaving him. It's going to hurt, but I've made up my mind now and I'm not going to go back on it. I'm going to talk to my lawyer. I'm going to file for a divorce and we're going to be done with this because I'm sick of going around in circles. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.